There's really no clear over-under on this. Is it going to be short? Is it going to be long? It's really up to Chuck Schumer. He's the one that needs to negotiate with himself, maybe negotiate with AOC, because it really seems that it's New York City and New York State politics that are playing out on a national stage right now. Chuck Schumer isn't concerned about America. He's not concerned about government employees. He's not really concerned about the rest of our country. He's only concerned about having a primary for U.S. Senator from AOC. So he has to show his radical base that he's actually fighting. What he really wants to do is spend $1.5 trillion more. He wants to give health care to illegals. He wants to undo the working families tax cut. And he wants to hurt rural hospitals, and he wants to continue these COVID handouts. That's what he's trying to do, and it's really just about appeasing his radical base.
I just want to understand, if you can explain to us the idea of giving health care to illegals. Isn't it impossible for an undocumented citizen to be eligible for health care?
The way they were, thank you for asking. The way they were enrolled, it actually would lead to them through other avenues being into these entitlement programs. So would we send a check directly? No, but were they enrolled through other measures? Absolutely. And those that were here legally, of course, and those that were citizens, sometimes it was couples making up to $500,000 were getting these subsidies. So do we need to fix these reform or have some reforms in regards to these subsidies? Yes, there are some people that actually need them. There's some contractors, some blue collar folks that were on 1099s, and they need to have them. But we need to reform them. We don't want to throw them out. We want to say, let's have the discussion. But this is completely nonsensical what Chuck Schumer's doing. He's saying you have to do this right now or we're going to shut the government down. And matter of fact, he did it at midnight last night. This is a December discussion. This is not a late September or an early October discussion. This is something we can keep working on. You can shut the government down and have a discussion, which he did, which is very expensive, and he's been opposed to it up till now. Or you can keep it open and have discussions.
Are saying about that. I was in the Senate in that same spot you're standing and talking with a number of your colleagues, Schmidt, Marshall, and others last evening. Tom Cole joined us. And the idea here about where we're going has just raised a whole bunch of questions. Chuck Schumer was talking about this earlier today on the Senate floor, Senator. I'd love for you to hear what he said and have you respond. Let's listen. I guess we don't have that right now. We'll get back to that in a moment. When we start,
I've heard lots of comments from him.
Well, let me just ask you this question, Senator, and we'll put Chuck Schumer aside for a moment. You're saying that extending the Obamacare subsidies is a matter for the end of the year. But a number of Democrats who've joined us, Chris Coons last evening said, notices are going out and open enrollment is about to begin, that healthcare premiums actually start rising today. Are they wrong?
I think they're wrong in their timing. This is something we need to discuss, but you don't do it in an emergency fashion like this. The reason that you do a stopgap continuing resolution or CR is so that you can have these conversations and let the appropriations committee, with people that are elected to do so and are put on these committees to do so, can work out the budgets in a reasonable means. That's the regular order that we talk about here, and that's what we need to do. This is right now, this argument, this shutdown, it's very expensive. It doesn't make any sense. It backs Chuck Schumer further into a corner. I think it only gets worse for him, not better. We're the reasonable ones here. Donald Trump is reasonable. But it's completely just trying to appease Chuck Schumer's radical base is all he's doing, and showing that he's having a fight so he doesn't have a primary from AOC.
Well, Senator, you're saying that shutdowns are expensive, so I'd love your take on the White House's threat when it comes to permanent layoffs. It's our understanding that the OMB director, Russ Vought, will be speaking to your colleagues on the House side today about that potential. We should say at this point it doesn't appear that agencies have laid out that plan, but do you agree with this as a negotiating tactic?
I don't think it's about a negotiating tactic, but if Chuck Schumer is going to hand this card to the White House, which wants to be fiscally responsible. I mean, that's one of the reasons that President Trump was elected, is to get the fiscal house of America back in order. And there are a lot of people that are needed in the private sector. There's a lot of talent that work for the U.S. government that may be better serving our economy working in the private sector and not at the behest of American taxpayers. And if it's chance for Russ Vought to right the ship on that, then so be it. Yeah, I mean, it's not about being mean. It's about being fiscally responsible for American taxpayers.
Well, what do you think he can do here? If the government shut down, he's got the keys to the kingdom, Senator. How many workers Do you think Russ Vought can cut?
Look, I don't know. He's going to look at this, and you have to keep the funk. I think people want the American government to work. They want it to open. They want it to be responsible. They don't want it to be front and center. I mean, people want to go home. They want to talk about their lives. They want to live their lives. And you just need the American government to work. And Chuck Schumer has thrown it into dysfunction. He's overspending. He's trying to add $1.5 trillion, much of that for illegals. And I think Americans think that's ridiculous. Look, if somebody is not essential right now, then they don't need to be working for the American government. And I think that's what Russ Vought's going to look at. And he's going to do the right thing.
Senator, I do want to ask you about another policy that has really come to the forefront this week, and that's President Trump's policies regarding tariffs. We saw him renew tariffs when it comes to the furniture industry. In particular, in his post announcing it on Truth Social, he highlighted your state of North Carolina. Now, we've seen some mixed reviews from domestic industry. I'm wondering where you stand on this policy and what you're hearing from domestic furniture makers about this more protectionist view.
Well, President Trump and I have the same goal, and that is to reindustrialize the United States. So I think that is what he's for. He wants more manufacturing to be done here. You know, we've seen some post-NAFTA revitalization of the North Carolina furniture industry, but it's still not where it was pre-NAFTA. So we want more industry to come back here. I'm not traditionally a fan of tariffs, but I am a fan of what Donald Trump's trying to do, and that is level the playing field against countries that have cheated us and have taken our workforce away and have hurt American employment and have hurt our industries over the last 20 or 30 years. So I think he's trying to right the ship and attract these countries to reinvest and these companies to reinvest in North Carolina and the other great states in our country. And it's starting to happen. I wish it would have happened yesterday. I wish it would have happened years ago. I wish we would have never had the disjointed economic effect that NAFTA did on North Carolina. But those decisions are behind us. Now let's get America back on track, especially our economy.